Indulge me one more. You've indulged me a lot, I know. The question I didn't get to last night as a follow-up, because time was of the essence. What was the first coaching job that you were offered?
Well, I wasn't offered, but I went to Adelaide and spent a day over there with the club about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks after I retired.
Yeah.
And so Ross Dillon was a Cobram, he was a board member, he was from Cobram originally, and I went over and had a day at the club and went out for dinner with them, and just great people, really great people, and enjoyed it, did a little bit of work on their list. But I wasn't ready to coach, Gerard. I think they were interested to pursue it, but I wasn't. I was only 31 or so, so I came back home to Melbourne. But I enjoyed that whole process, and you know, I really, John Reid, he's a terrific fella.
Yep.
So I love going over there and having a chat with the Crows. So that kind of was the first experience of it all, but it wasn't. From my end, it wasn't close to happening.
And then Melbourne and Richmond at various times had a little nibble as well.
Yeah, that was a bit further down the track, and you know, I think those. You know, if I wanted to pursue that, that was pretty real. But I'm happy to have done what I've done. Not brave enough. I always say that when people talk about it. Why didn't you coach? Well, I wasn't brave enough. That's why I've got unbelievable admiration for all those that jumped in feet first, because it's, you know, it's non-stop and the 24-hour day, all that stuff is. I like to do this, but I like to go home and shut the door.
yeah. I'm so thrilled for you guys.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Congratulations. All right, the rest of our show. So Simo and Horsey are going to join us shortly. We've got the teams for St Kilda and the Bulldogs. Shall we explore a bit of farming?
Yeah.
Is your other great passion?
Yes, my great passion, yes. I might get exposed here today.
Angus Clark and Mason Redmond, who know everything about country life.
He's a real farmer, Gerard, so he might expose me, but there's a good cause behind all this.
Yes. And then after us, first crack, they'll take the look into the events of rounds. What are we up to? 14.
I'll be watching Joey Montagne's performance tonight very, very closely, Gerard. He was having a first crack and a last crack.
Very nice. All right, D-Day. Yes. Who was it D-Day for, thanks to Aussie Broadband?
Well, I went to the Port Adelaide-Melbourne clash. I'm having a look at this, and I reckon the loser of this game is going to find it really hard to be absolutely contending at the end. So Port Adelaide found a bit of form and had a win on the weekend. The Demons, you know, desperately short against the ladder leader. It's over in Adelaide on their dunghill. Both of these sides would expect to win this game, Gerard. I think that would be fair to say.
Yep.
And the loser is a long way back. So Jason Horne-Francis looks like he's moving pretty well. Is he expected to be back? That's a big shot in the arm for them if he is.
And the short turnaround for Melbourne. So when we left Monday night, two different paths. Is Collingwood are heading to their bye after laying it all out there.
Yeah.
Melbourne have got to travel on a 6-day break before they get to their bye.
That is true. So Port Adelaide would even more fancy themselves, I would imagine. So, and then you've got to get over the heartache of a 1-point loss, and they've been in the news a bit, their captain and their fullback. Yeah. So I think that's D-Day for me. What about you?
I've started obsessing over Friday night. I can't decide. Is it Hawthorn or is it Adelaide? So this is so perfectly poised. The classic 8-point game, because it's the 4 you get and the 4 you deny the others. So how much of what Hawthorn did against the Dogs put things right? The re-establishment of the pressure game and the return to form for some players. It is 3rd versus 6th. They're 1 game behind Adelaide. If they get beaten, they're suddenly 8 points behind in the race for the top 4. Yeah. If they win, then they draw alongside Adelaide. So how big a step did the Crows take? Because of the bizarre nature of the last 15 minutes, should they have won? Well, they did win, so that plants that. Does it establish them as a top 4 team? They get to test their credentials. Add into that, the last 2 times in Launceston these teams have met, they've been 3-point results either way. So they've played a pair of thrillers. And I imagine Friday night will be pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's interesting. And their top 8 credentials have been questioned, both these teams. They were 1-4 against top 8 teams going into last week. They both got a scalp, impressively or not. So they're 2-4 and they're up against each other again. So, no, that'll be a beauty.
So that's Friday night. Let's start our agenda at Thursday night. And really, Sam Darcy is the story here. It's the second time the Bulldogs and the Saints have played. He got injured in the first one on Easter Sunday night, and he'll be back for the second one, which just tells you how rapidly this has come to hand.
Oh, Darcy's hurt. He's grabbing at his left knee.
No. He was in a real pain, Gerard. Real pain.
I think the game suffered a great loss this afternoon or this evening when Sam went down. I mean, he's the biggest, brightest, shining star we've got right now in the competition.
Yeah, Sam's ready to go. He'll be in the team when it's announced this afternoon. No use trying to hide that.
Darcy, he's a gun, and he might be the next big thing.
He's done a really scrupulous and professional job on rehabilitation from that injury, and so we welcome him back and look forward to having him part of tomorrow night.
I've created a monster, 'cause nobody wants to see Marshall no more. They want shady.
Good choice from the DJs. Guess who's back? Sam Darcy's back. So round 6 had happened. He's back for round 14. It means he only missed 6 games. We lived through this in real time where it looked for all the world, and he'd been told for all the world it was a knee reconstruction. And we're going to see him this weekend.
What were the chances of St Kilda thinking, oh, we'll see him in 6? They would have thought, we won't have to deal with him unless we get to finals. And here we are 6 weeks later. We said, before our show and reminisced about that night, and everyone thought he'd done his knee, even down to the Western Bulldogs medicos, certainly Luke and the family. We had those pictures of them in the rooms, and then I went out at half-time actually to do an interview and bumped into him, and he had this resigned look on his face. So it is so uplifting that he's back, and it's so important that he's back because they can't afford to misstep against this St Kilda side tomorrow night.
You just saw McRae's back for St Kilda, so he had the punctured lung in the game in Perth, and Stocker hasn't played since round 9 against Carlton. Filippo's out there. So Darcy and Hines, he's played the 3 games in his career in the middle phases of what we've seen so far, and Harms is injured, and Gardner just wasn't quite ready for it. So that game, Gaz, the Dogs won by 71 points, and we just crunched a few of those numbers. The damage that they did at stoppage, it was so phenomenally lopsided.
44-23 clearances, centre bounce 20-6. And as you rightly point out, there'd be few coaches better placed to sit back and go to work on those numbers than Ross Lyon in the space of 6 weeks. So forewarned is always forearmed in these situations, and then Luke Beveridge knows better than anyone exactly what Ross Lyon has been able to go to work on. So it'll be fascinating from a coach's box point of view to see it all unfold. There are players that just didn't perform last week for the Western Bulldogs who dominated this game. It was Marcus Bontempelli's first game back, just announced himself. So this could be the first time we see Bontempelli and Darcy play from start to finish for the year for the Western Bulldogs, which would give them great heart. But the Saints will be taking some great heart as well from their last outing, which was a victory.
They just plotted and schemed to bring Melbourne down, so plot and scheme again. Is looking at the coaches' votes from that game and a couple of the players that we referenced. So Fraser got 5, Sanders got 4. They're 2 who need to get back into the fray for the Dogs. Maybe they've become a little more peripheral as it's gone along. Dale, Williams, Liberatore, who was rarely poor last week. So their only bad loss for the season was against Hawthorn. We would absolutely expect them to rebound. But it is a bit... It's one of my pet hates in footy, Gaz, that there's only 6 games that have elapsed between when these 2 teams met the first time and the second time. That does my head.
Our draw is crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, they'll go to work on it. And as I said, to be able to, in the space of 6 weeks, go and just study all that. But Norton was... Aaron Norton is another name that we can throw up here, because when Sam went off, we all sort of said, well, this is your moment. And he had a moment. He kicked 3, could have had 5, and he's had a bit of an up-and-down season and was poor again the week before. So this is their time. But what do we do? Round 14. There's no more time.
No.
There's games up our sleeve. This is it. You've got to start making moves.